All right. Hey, it's me, Nate, your friend Nate, around all the discords. I am honored and pleased to be joined by three of the four of the RPG Reanimator podcast crew. The fourth, unfortunately, had a family arrangement engagement already, but very happy, very pleased to be here with Lex, Alex, and Nathan to discuss the world of role-playing games that maybe go beyond the common sort of standard systems that we're very familiar with. So in this panel, we're going to look at game systems that bring different stories and play styles to life, spotlight some of their personal favorites, talk about how trying new games can sharpen your skills, both a player, as a GM, and maybe, just maybe, as a real life human being in the real life world. No, you're right, Nathan. That's not.
Let's
So
keep
begin.
the scope tight.
I
Let's
settle
keep
as
it
a facsimile of a human being. That's my goal,
A
actually.
homunculus, if you
There you
will.
go.
all right.
Be
You know,
uncanny
I
as
thought maybe
possible.
we could try something different, but yeah, you're right. You're right. Let's not go too far. So let's find out some more about our panelists. So beginning with Alex.
Hello, all. I am Alex. I'm one of the co-hosts for RPG Reanimators. I've been DMing for like 10-ish years now and playing Call of Cthulhu, loving it. And yeah, what we're all about at RPG Reanimators is we basically dissect scenarios, cut them up, see what they're all about, what makes them tick, really, what makes them tick, and then we build them back up with the central themes, and because we adjust what doesn't work and we make it work. Other than that, we offer GM advice and run actual plays on our YouTube channel. We're so excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Lex.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Lex Hurley, pronouns he, him, his. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to just say, like, what he said. I'm pointing down. Alex is below me on the Zoom screen here. But yes,
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
also one of the co-hosts of RPG Reanimators. I am a researcher by day and a horror GM by night. I've also been doing this for a few years now, but I have learned to stop counting the years because it just makes me age more, or at least I realize the age. I'm not much a fan of that. So yeah, that has been great fun, just getting involved in the TTRPG community and getting involved with this podcast because, Alex and Nathan and I first got started talking about this podcast a few years ago at Chaosium Con because we were active on Discord and just GMing, giving advice and things like that. And people would ask the same questions, like this scenario, this scenario. And we just had to give the same advice over and over again. And so it really kind of crystallized the essence of the podcast for us, was just a way for us to really dial in on what we did and why we changed what we did in scenarios to make more successful runs. And then that way we can just say, it's there, it's in the cloud, it's on the feed, please. Yeah, not much for repeating myself.
Awesome. And last but not least, my most favorite named RPG Reanimator, Nathan Decker.
Well, that doesn't
All
feel
right.
fair.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's our version of a Nepo baby. I'm Nathan. I'm the fourth co-host of the RPG Reanimators since Holly can't make it. So I'm here. What can I add to that? We do a lot of actual plays. You can see those on YouTube. Alex mentioned them. He's run some excellent Call of Cthulhu recently. We've got some other systems coming up, like a Weird Heroes of Public Access. What am I editing right now? Dungeon Crawl Classics. Dungeon Crawl Classics will have a fun one shot, which is 4 episodes of that. So, we've got some variety in the videos as well. And luckily, it's not just me running them. So, good GMs are also running games on our channel.
And don't forget your acquisition disorders, which I feel like might come
Once,
up.
once in a while, I've been known to have an acquisition disorder.
Especially if the Kickstarter offers a t-shirt. So I
Yep.
hear.
Yep.
And don't forget all the games that get run on your server too. So people are looking for game, and this is a game convention panel. People are on the weekend server to play games. RPG Reanimators is running games all the time, like good ones, play tests and new ideas and all. So
Allegedly good ones, yes.
Well, and we've got a lot of friends that like to play test their own systems or their own scenarios, so it's a good chance to get in on the ground floor and try new things.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful workshop.
Well, let's get this started. As a podcast crew, they are ridiculously prepared to run their own panel, which is very nice, refreshing, and not surprising because I've also been enjoying the podcast, and it is obviously a well prepared and run and managed podcast itself. So, first question out of this: why should someone who loves one RPG, knows one RPG, is probably familiar, comfortable with one RPG, why should that person try another one?
Well, I'll take a shot at this first, and I would love to say that variety is the spice of life, because um, even if you're not really looking to get better at something, it will definitely increase your repertoire by having all this new experience, and it will just inherently make you better because you have expanded those ideas, right? And these ideas that keep things fresh and interesting, and like also you just never know about something if you never try it.
Yeah, I think we have seen that certain systems like D&D 5e can be hacked apart and try to shove square pegs into round holes everywhere to try to make it fit for something. And like, why would I need to use a new system? Whatever, I can just hammer this into submission and make it work. But it's honestly one of the best parts of trying new and different TTRPG systems is they can have different mechanics and cause you to think about problems and things in different ways. You know, I will say, like, you get to flex different metaphorical muscles and experiment with these other mechanics and approaches in ways that you may otherwise not have considered. And then if you like some of them, you can port them into your own games. You know, certain systems work better for certain types of stories than others. Certain systems are more rigid in the rules and what they can do, whereas others are almost entirely improv based. And so by sampling a variety, you'll learn kind of how much of this like improv versus narration versus crunch that you may like. And it just helps you be more involved and informed. And it also can help you just be, yeah, just have a little more comprehensive skill set, I think, to kick
Yeah,
things off.
Yeah, I think the tone
absolutely.
there's important. Like, you can't do a horror game as easily with Dungeons and Dragons when you
Right.
can cast Fireball at, the alien from Alien. It takes a lot of the punch out of it. So yeah, trying the different systems, seeing, where do you land, right? Do you want to be an investigator? Do you want to be a pulp investigator? Because they're like one step down from D&D characters. Or maybe you go, the complete down, like, we're gonna play Things from the Flood and we're all middle schoolers and we have zero power and we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah. One thing I also want to add is the fact that if you just like, let's say you start off with the most popular role-playing game right now, Dungeons and Dragons, and they just run dungeon crawls, and you run dungeon crawls for 2 years, 3 years, five years, then all you're gonna know is dungeon crawl, and everything's gonna look like a target when you go into another role-playing game, and that's gonna influence how you act.
Yeah, yeah. It's that same like genre feel, right? You're not getting that like, oh, I think Lex, you said maybe we should talk to the orcs, hash it out. That's not really the
Right.
vibe
If you
of
stick with one
D&D.
thing, it's just putting horse blinders on yourself and like this is the
Yeah.
approach you are going to hyper specialize in that. And so maybe it's getting yourself out of a comfort zone a bit, but just trying something new within a supportive, environment where we're all just players and GMs trying to have fun. It can give a new perspective that you can potentially carry forward into other games. Also, another little tidbit too is you don't have to try, despite what Nathan may recommend, you do not have to purchase and or try every TTRPG under the sun. But you can just kind of try things out. Like, I'll give an example. I'm going to talk about the Alien RPG quite a bit in this, but if you want to try out a sci-fi based system like Alien or Mothership or Death in Space, there's loads of them, and you find one that you really like, then cool. You can now use that as your go-to sci-fi base. And so you don't need to do hyper specialized and learn a new rule set each time, but I can run mothership scenarios using the alien system. I know that like the back of my hand, so that just makes it easier to go on there. It would be really hard, like Nathan said, it would be really hard to run an alien, like a xenomorph based scenario using D&D 5e or even using Call of Cthulhu rules, where I don't think there's really a need for archaeology and accounting in space. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there.
You're certainly going to need to have more than one alien for the challenge rating to be set correctly. Yeah, and I think from that too, there's a lot of opinions on what a game even is. Like we've talked about games that are very traditional, but you can start getting into just full story games where you never roll a die, or something like Dread, which uses a Jenga tower. Like the different kinds of mechanics that you find really, uh, I don't know, they're just inspiring. I think that's a good way to get players in, is show them something completely new. And if you have too much money and whatnot, then yeah, that is also
Everyone
good.
has that problem, Nathan.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure.
And an easy cure for it is just hop on Kickstarter and just start backing all those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You'll get them
I,
someday, maybe.
I had quite a problem with that about 6 years ago. So, but this seems like a great, you're talking about, like when you're talking about Alien and Fireballs, and I keep thinking about all of the, hey, let's just say I'm running Curse of Strahd in 5e. Oh no, I'm going to run it in Call of Cthulhu. I want to try that.
Yeah.
Or I'm running, this thing, and that makes me wonder what draws you and what draws you to try a new tabletop RPG? What draws you to try a new game system out there?
I can jump in on this one. For me, fundamentally, it comes down to telling different kinds of stories and having different kinds of experiences at the table. It can vary from one scenario to the next within a domain like Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green, but also it could just be trying a different system. Some may be easier or crunchier than others. You can pick up and play something from Grant Howitt within a couple of minutes and have a great time at a table in a public convention where people will drop in, play a character that gets kicked in the face by a horse and then leaves never to be heard from again. You can have all sorts of different experiences depending on what you and your players want. As I mentioned just a second ago, some systems are much better at telling different kinds of stories and giving different experiences than others. Particularly as you get into more niche systems and especially zine-based systems, they can capture really interesting experiences that might border on therapy. Like, I could not ever retell a session of Bluebeard's Bride using Call of Cthulhu. It's such a unique and heart-wrenching experience to dive into certain kinds of role play that, again, it'll depend on what you and your friends want. I come from a background where I had a table of D&D players who, like, I got started with RPGs with, and I really wanted to bring them into Call of Cthulhu, but they were super just constrained onto D&D. They didn't want to learn another system, and it truly felt like leading a horse to water but can't make it drink. And I think that maybe if you are trying to convince potential players to try new systems, that may be an angle to pitch as, here is a different kind of story, here is a different kind of experience, and then just say this is a vessel, an avenue to try and go through that.
Yeah, and I think from that, I mean, for me, what makes me want to try a new RPG is vibes. Like, it's what catches you, right? Like, Morkborg is a good example of, it is in your face, it is showing you something exciting and different, and that I think is interesting for people. So to Lex, your thing of like trying to get people into Call of Cthulhu, it'd be interesting to show them like pictures and examples of like, this is what the game is. Because I think a lot of the times when we pitch games, we go, oh, it's, a cozy type game with
Mhm.
a pastoral background. And it doesn't get people like, doesn't get their vision there necessarily like a picture does.
Well, that and then making comparisons to movies and things. Like, I
Yeah.
will always and forever use 1999's The Mummy as like the case example of, this is Pulp Cthulhu. Do
Yeah.
you want to play through The Mummy, basically? Then you should try Pulp Cthulhu, and going on from there.
Yeah, for me, I think it's all about the different mechanics that really interests me because Nathan mentioned this earlier, but really the system mechanics of a tabletop role-playing game can affect the vibe, the tone, that mood
Yeah.
of the game that's being run. And that newness excites me. I want to see really cool, weird mechanics, right? That Jenga tower mechanic for Dread perfectly encapsulates that dread where it's like wiggling. Is it gonna fall or not? Is a character going to be killed off because this tower falls? Like that's exciting for me. Seeing weird like math stuff also makes me really happy. Like, oh, if you have advantage on this, you actually flip-flop your dice. So you swap the numbers around, or if you get fistfuls of die and you can just like roll them, the more stressed you are, like an alien.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it gives you like different emotional reactions more than you might expect. Like
yeah,
the die roll of Alien, great example where you're like, I'm gonna chuck all these dice, but I know the more I have, the more likely it is that I'm gonna
yeah.
like break down.
Hey,
So
hey,
you've
stop
got that
stealing my
gambling.
points.
Oh,
Stop stealing
sorry.
my points, man. Damn it.
No, let's do another example then.
Shit.
Quick, quick, quick.
Quick.
Smash cut
Pivot,
away
pivot.
from that. Um, so new games and new systems and new rules. So it feels right. What's a game then, or what's a system that changed the way you think about actually role playing?
Nathan mentioned this a little bit earlier in regards to diceless systems. And I can say without a doubt that Wanderhome is my go-to recommendation for something completely different that really changed the way that I approach TTRPGs as a GM and as a player. It is an extremely cozy and occasionally crippling depression inducing game where you all are just different sorts of animals following, like trying to get back home or to find a new home after some devastating war. And you're seeing this land that has been broken, trying to heal itself back again, and seeing communities who are struggling and able to help them out. It uses a token system that honestly we've never even used while role playing. It is a very gentle introduction to shared storytelling with a lot of helpful guides for here are some prompts that we discuss, like where are we going next? What does it look like? Who may be there? And then there's a rule, I believe, that it's if you disagree or you have a different idea, rather than, steamrolling over another player, everyone can go around and contribute something. But instead of a no, how about, but what about? Or providing some alternative that it is really focused on each contributor building on the narrative that is present in there and adding to what players are saying at the table. It is one of my all-time favorite systems, and I highly recommend because it's probably going to change the way that you think about playing and GMing.
It's got a lot of fun mechanics too for a game that like it's very low mechanics, but there's a lot of interesting like tables and reactions against like violence too. So if you've got players that every solution has to be I stab somebody, this is a good example of a game where it goes like, no, you explicitly cannot do that. There's one character that could do that, and if you do that, you're out of the game, which
Yeah.
is one of the few times you can get out of a game is like, nah, you stab somebody. Yeah, it's you don't fit in anymore. See ya.
Wow.
It's also just extremely cozy in that way. And oddly, out of the, I think, 5 games of Wanderhome that we played in a kind of mini campaign, was it 2 or 3 of them ended up turning into Honey Heist from Grant Howitt? It's one of those that, like, it felt like that Doofenshmirtz meme where it's like, man, if I had that, I'd have 2 nickels, which is, not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Another reason to have a bunch of other systems under your belt for when your
True.
players go, we want to steal the honey. All right, let's just swap out
That's
for
when
a
you see a
second.
panda bear in a bumblebee costume.
Yeah. Which hat are you going to wear right now for this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're getting a lot of press right now. The Brindlewood, the Carve from the Brindlewood games are pretty huge. I think we're pretty excited about public access coming out because that like vibe wise is right up our alley, that 90s horror. But the use of collaborative storytelling really hit for me there, where the game master they have a rough idea of what the scenario is going to do, but they're really gonna let the players drive, what is your reaction to this NPC? Are they going to be friendly to you or not? Like, what is your background? And really digging in through clever questions. I think that's probably the biggest part for Brittlewood for me is it asks a lot of good, insightful questions in a little bit of time.
And that's when that also has a fundamental rule of the system is you ask the players to paint the scene. Is that
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
Brindlewood. I've played a lot of
Yep.
public access, but Brindlewood not so much. But yeah,
Yeah.
talking about training or introducing players to something new, what a great way for them to get an introduction. Oh, you can help create this thing too.
I think
Yeah.
that Brindlewood and public access and other systems that use this carved from Brindlewood base are potentially really great ways to try and coax players who may be a little bit in their shell and they may not add very much or feel comfortable adding a lot. It can be a great way to coax them into contributing more to the role play and the narrative because you get to
Yeah.
ask them to paint the scene and they realize like they have license to add and interject things and describe what's going on around them. From our talk with Jason Cordova, I guess shameless plug for the pod because it was a really fun conversation, but it got me thinking about the nature of role play and how much license that players may have in one or another. It kind of makes me think of different containers of fluid where, in Brindlewood Bay, you are playing basically Murder She Wrote, little old ladies who solve mysteries within this one confined town. Public access, you are people with these defined background experiences that are staying in this house, in this town, and exploring. And so it can potentially limit creative options where it can't be like I want to be I want to be an
Yeah.
accountant who then took up a stab as a mortician's assistant who is going to be like you don't get that. But in exchange, by limiting this focus and saying, like, think about what kind of little old lady would be fun for you to role play, there is a even deeper well of how much you can dive into this kind of character. And so by giving some constraints here, you open up a lot more depth for role play. Whereas if you have any sort of background, then to keep the scenario going, there may be a little less constraint in what they may be able to add because the contextual variability can be a little too much to juggle sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm gonna get in on the praise here for the Carved from Brindlewood systems with the unseens and the in between
Yeah.
and public access. Like that's a really great way that kind of fundamentally changed how I look at how I narrate as the game master, right? So it's more like a director, right? You're doing smash cuts. You're letting the players see things that aren't exactly right in front of their player characters, and I think that adds to the storytelling of
Well,
the game.
yeah, and the unseen's even further than just they're seeing what's off screen is a
Yep.
lot of the time they're narrating
Right.
what's off
Yeah.
screen and telling the GM like the GM will just say, "Okay, you're watching this video and you see this puppet does something horrific. What did the puppet do?" Right? And then they can call back that later, and
Right.
everybody feels those warm butterflies inside because, hey, they used my suggestion and it's creepier now because I, kind of came up with it.
Yeah.
And it also gets players used to being like, oh, my character didn't see that, so I'm not going to reference it, which is always a problem because I don't know if when you start out in D&D, everyone's like a little mob and they all just stand together like, no, we all see that, right? We all saw that. Everybody all at once. Yes, we have all experienced the same thing.
And kind of expanding on this too, in regards to unseens in public access, just thinking about the conversation with Jason, something else with that system that can be very fun if you have players who are kind of scaredy cats and talking about in systems like Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green where they're focused on keeping their characters alive and
Yeah.
so potentially avoiding certain spooky areas and things. The unseens are a very cool way of letting them see what is behind that door, and it can potentially encourage players to explore more and realize that whenever they are creating these characters and going through, particularly horror scenarios, you're playing through your own horror movie. You are literally
Yeah.
choosing your own adventure. And sometimes it's worth taking that hit for a non, what is it, like opportune or optimized move in order to like, oh man, this is going to be fucked up. Yeah, I'm going to go in there. I'm not going to listen to the creepy man at the gas station.
Yep. Yeah, and you get those nice, like, you can ask the question in a way to lead the player there where you don't say, oh, do you open the chest with blood coming out of it? You just say, when you open the chest with blood out of it, what do you see? Right? You're kind of flipping the narrative control to say, like, you still have control over what you see, but you're gonna see something. You are going to get involved here.
Like, what inspires you to open said chest?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's leading. I would say other tabletop RPGs that changed the way that how I think about role playing. Probably early on in my like introduction to role playing games, I was introduced to Powered by the Apocalypse, and it
Yep.
was really helpful to me to see it all written out. Like, these are the bands of success, failure, partial success, and like resounding success, no complications. And that really changed how I thought about running games and what failure means in other systems, right? Failure necessarily isn't you fail, it can also mean success, but with a complication. And you can move around those bands.
Yeah, those games have a lot of good examples too. Like I know Stone Top is coming out soon as kind of the new hot powered by the apocalypse thing. And that's a really good example of like you have the move, you have the bands of success, and then they explain like, okay, what are some things you could do here? What are some GM tips you could do? I agree. I think powered by the apocalypse games kind of as a whole tend to have very good explanations.
And building on that too, seeing those types of examples can do a lot to help get someone more acclimated to failing forward as a GM. So whenever you see these conditions for partial successes, if a player fails their spot hidden roll in Call of Cthulhu, like that doesn't mean, you don't see anything. That means you can find it, something else is going to go wrong. And it's just a way to keep them going forward with additional complications without potentially halting narrative progression.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess one more mechanic that, I just love is pushing the roll in Call of Cthulhu
Yep.
Yeah.
7th
Yep.
edition. Just love pushing my luck, love seeing things go horribly wrong. It's fun
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah. And it gets the player in that gamble vibe, right? Where they go, I might get it, but I know if I fail, I know the consequence will be worse.
And you can't spend luck, yeah.
Nope. Nope. Yeah. And I don't know that this is necessarily a game that changed the way I think, but I find that watching actual plays was a big like introduction to the hobby for me, and then helped me see the different ways to actually run the game. Like I started, like I suspect a lot of people do, with Critical Role, really getting me back into it, and that's obviously a much more produced sort of thing. You started from there going into other podcasts, and like we play a fair bit with Into the Darkness. That was a good introduction to like, oh, this is how an investigation game could be run. This is how, players might take their time to find clues and not, just have huge emotional things. Like they might contain themselves to further this mystery. So yeah, I don't know. Watch actual plays. Hey, watch our actual plays.
There you
Watch
go.
your actual
And
play.
then
That's
you can also see what you don't want to do, which
Yeah,
is
and then
important when
can
you see
also
my
feel
stuff.
better about yourself, truly.
Ooh, point of contention. There was a panel about how you shouldn't learn from actual plays earlier this
I disagree without having watched that. Hard disagree with any points made.
I think
I don't know that the rules. Like I don't know that I'd try and learn the rules from it. But I
it's
think
different strokes for different folks all around. Like I am one that I don't watch. I hardly watch any APs where I feel comfortable enough with my own style that I know that if I see something, I'm going to try to pull from other people, and sometimes it can get me tripping over my own feet. However, I think that watching APs, especially as you are getting started, watching APs from regular people, like folks from Into the Darkness, folks on our server, we may stumble sometimes, but we don't have it's the opposite of the Matt Mercer effect, right? Like we can see this can still be a fun session. We still mess up from time to time, but
Yeah.
everyone's still here to have a good game, and it can both give you ideas and help you feel more comfortable with it. Because I
Yeah.
feel, based on what I see online, some folks feel very nervous about approaching GMing for the first time. It can feel very stressful, but it's just realizing I'm trying to help everybody have a good time here. I have a spooky prompt, and so let's just narrate things and try and make things happen. Identifying ways to, get your players all spooked at a session, and it's fun.
I think that's really interesting how like there's a lot of back and forth sort of strong opinions about the Mercer effect. But I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
what you're saying, Nathan, Lex, about watching Critical Role and then wanting to play games like that and realizing to run a game like Matt Mercer in D&D, that is a
Yeah,
very,
that's more.
very high level of
Yeah.
skill. You've
Yeah.
got to know and have, and you've got to be a professional. And I think maybe that's why a lot of us went and looked for other game systems that helped us run games
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
he runs D&D in different whole systems. And I really relate to that as well. Like Critical Role got me, and after my kids sort of got older, Critical Role was a gateway, and I'm like,
Yep.
this is cool, but it's entertainment. And then I got
Right.
into How We Roll was my next one because they were more normal. Still very good, but more normal people playing games and
Yeah, you
doing,
had to catch yourself there.
yeah.
Normal.
More,
Allegedly.
uh-oh. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So then, so talking about like new systems and learning new play styles or actually introducing yourselves to new ways to role play, how do those mechanics? You talked about PBT, Powered by the Apocalypse, PBTA,
Yeah.
and which is a completely different dynamic in terms of mechanics than like a skills-based system, like a Call of Cthulhu, like a D. How do mechanics impact that player experience when exploring new RPGs or game systems, and what should we pay attention to?
Pay attention to how the mechanics make the players feel, right? So Call of Cthulhu, for example, it's always going to be a downward spiral. You're rarely
Yeah.
going to recover lost stats like sanity. Even like 12 points of sanity loss can't even be brought back by weeks upon weeks of sanity. We touched upon the alien system. Each stress die is another chance for your character to freak out when they do an action, but it also drives them forward, drives that narrative forward. Savage Worlds, which I was running at the con, it makes you feel like an action hero because
Yeah.
all you need is a 4 to succeed. And when you get the highest number on that die, it explodes. And what that means is you get to re-roll that die again and add the previous number. And it can keep going, it can keep chaining. And that is the most like dopamine fueling feeling that I've had in some role-playing games.
Don't let Alex get to the casino. That's what I'm hearing.
Why
Yeah.
would I need the casino? I have role-playing games.
Yeah. And from the mechanics too, you also have that like, how is this framing the world? Not just how do they feel, but what does the mechanic tell you? So, as an example, Mork Borg, right? You roll a d6 for health, which means you can get 1 health. What does this tell you about the world? You're probably gonna die, like pretty fast. That it's not hard to look at 1 or 2 hit points and go like, huh, if any die gets rolled, I'm dead. So now I need to maybe think more about maybe don't just kick in the front door. Maybe make a plan that reduces some of the risk and you start getting kind of a different feel to the game. And also, I want to say too, mechanically, I think it helps if you're pitching the game, know the level of mechanics you want to deal with. Alex, you've run Pathfinder for some of us.
Yes.
Pathfinder. Yeah, Pathfinder. Why am I thinking Path Builder?
Second
Wrong.
edition. Yeah,
Second edition.
that's right.
But you knew, like, going in, this is a chunkier game with more tactical sort of decisions to
Yeah,
make. You need to know that when you pitch the
yeah.
system.
Hit him with the
Otherwise,
session
people,
zero. Bam,
yeah,
bam. One, two.
yeah. Otherwise, people might come in and go like, "I just wanted to tell a funny story. I didn't know I was going to be rolling a nature check when I stepped outside."
Yeah, expanding on this, definitely it can be an issue of knowing not only yourself, but your players and what everyone is wanting and expecting for this
Yeah.
session. I think Morkborg and Pathfinder are awesome examples of the opposite ends of a spectrum, where Morkborg is extremely simple. You can roll up a new
Yeah.
character in like literally seconds and then be done with it and throw them into the fray. Nathan had this awesome idea. I still want to try it at a con sometime, where we buy like a case of beers, print off a bunch of Morkborg character sheets, and then every time a PC dies, we hand a new beer and a new sheet over. And so then we're just going to get
Oh,
blitzed and play through all of that. We're like, that's the wild. It's super improv heavy, just going on vibes and kicking ass slash getting your ass kicked more often than not.
you should put the character sheets around the beers as the wrapping.
Yeah, that's it. It's just
Yeah,
going to be taped around the
that
label.
is so cool. I love it.
But then Pathfinder is extremely rules heavy and crunchy. And so, like, I really enjoy Pathfinder because I like seeing all of these little cogs in the machine work, and it's supremely balanced. Tons of fun. It is not everyone's cup of tea by far. And so it can just be helpful to, sit down and even do just a single session and say, like, how we feeling about this? Do you want to continue it further and see how that goes in from there? But also just kind of pivoting the conversation a little bit. Nathan, I see you have this point in here, but I'm going to steal it just really quick because you can read dozens of different system books and see like, okay, so this is how they're doing that. This is this rule here. It can be very different reading and then experiencing how these rules work at the table, because I have never touched a gumshoe system until fairly recently, whenever Xander ran Tell Me Have You Seen the Yellow Sign using the new Trail of Cthulhu system. And it was really fun. I was extremely skeptical going into it because I'm just like, wait, we just get everything? Like, what's the fuck? Like, I just tick a bunch of boxes and move through it? Like, it felt too easy. And I didn't understand what the challenger appeal would be. Whereas in playing it, that was like the smoothest movie experience that I have had, where we don't risk a chance of like, oh, you fuck up and don't see the guy crossing the street. Like, no, you see it. We are competent and skilled in our own niches, and we are contributing and building to the story. You can spend points and contribute something to that narrative, like we were talking about with public access and systems like that. Whenever it comes down to combat, then dice rolls and things matter. It's not a perfect system, but it's still really interesting, much more than what I thought on paper. We've also mentioned the Alien RPG a few times. It is one of my all-time favorite systems because the stress die system is so much more dynamic than even it seems on paper. Because whenever you start out at base, you may have somewhere between 1 and 6 or so dice that you need to roll. You need to get a 6 on any dice. You just throw a shitload of d6s on the table. It's incredibly satisfying. But as they encounter more and more stressful things, you will add stress dice and you will roll those along with your regular dice. And if those stress succeed, that counts as a success for you. So as this stress builds, players will start to realize it's kind of helpful to have 2 to 4 stress, because you will have more stress dice than regular dice for skill rolls. And so that increasing that tension for your character actually helps them kind of lock in for a bit. But if you roll ones on stress dice, any single one, then that can cause you to panic. You roll against a table, and the higher results get to be worse and worse impacts. And players will eventually find that there is a sweet spot that you really want to keep somewhere between 2 to 4 stress dice, because if you start getting 6 or more, girl, you're fucked. Like, you are going to lock up constantly. You are going to stress everyone else out around you because you're losing your shit. And it's such an interesting balance in the playthrough. Like, we had an awesome session of Chariot of the Gods. I say session, it lasted like 7 or 8 sessions, but it was super, super fun. And like the
The
players
whole thing was
really,
awesome.
it was tons of fun. Like, the players really leaned into the RP, and the system did a lot to deliver that. Like, if it was just us making stuff up, I don't think we would have had the same experience. So really worth trying out other stuff to see what works for you.
Yeah, that kind of fits too of what works for your brain in that same thing. Like Alien, that system I think works really well for your brain, Lex. And for me, It's pretty good. Like it kind of makes sense, but maybe a rules light game might just like hit me and be like, yes, that makes sense. I can run this without thinking. Cause like I find the panic table, that's the one I always forget. Like I always have that weird misstep when I go back to it. Same with Mothership of go back to it. I'm like, wait, what do I need to roll again? What do I need to do to get this? Yeah. I think try different things and find the one you like.
Absolutely. And I will say different systems have different amounts of bandwidth
Yeah.
that are required from players and GMs. And you have to realize, like, hey, if I'm doing a bunch of like number crunch because I have to keep track of initiative and what this enemy can do in this combat, that's less time for me to add narration, add more flourish, right? And players, right, they're going to think of things tactically versus a system like John Harper's Lasers and Feelings, where you just roll a d6 and you just go from there. And that allows bandwidth to be freed up so you can think about, okay, well, what's next? What's narration? This player said this. Okay, so I can use that and bring this back up or think about their backstory instead of thinking of oh, okay, well, what's the +2 modifier here? Okay, but they're flanked. Thank God for virtual tabletops for games like those Pathfinder and Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Complex systems that don't come with like a character builder or something. That's what an uphill climb in this day and age.
Yeah,
Yep.
Path
Oof.
Builder's a lifesaver.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Lancer is another one that's like, this is complex, but they have a nice little comp con thing that you can use. Like, yeah, if you're getting into some of those systems, it's worth checking out if something exists because it may not always be in the rule book, but some nerd might have taken the time to sit down and make it.
Maybe this is a hidden sub theme of this talk, but maybe variety is the spice of life. Try a bunch of simple rules light RPGs and then see where you can lift those in, because that's another one too. Cyborg is a cyberpunk
Yeah.
offshoot of Morkborg. Tons of fun too. And like, I'm interested in some of the scenarios in Cyberpunk Red. I am not going to fucking run Cyberpunk Red rules as written. I looked at hacking and I said, no, thank you. And but you can absolutely run Cyberpunk using Cyborg and then roll with it from there. So if you are comfortable and excited by the rules light approaches, try those out and you are going to find something that you can port into other systems or run other scenarios with.
You
Yeah.
mean the hidden message behind table RPGs isn't just like go to therapy,
Yeah,
like
that's the
like
other one, is go to therapy and try
Yeah.
new games.
Gamers will do anything other than go to therapy. Yeah. And I think too, kind of to that like cyberpunk red of it all, reading the new systems or trying to play them is also good for seeing stuff you never want to do again. Because, or things like, I think the hacking's a good example because it gets brought up a lot of the hacker goes off and they kind of play their own mini game away from everybody else. But the timing is weird, right? Like hacking is fast, but everybody else is sitting around going like, well, 6 seconds has passed. What do your characters do? Well, I start the microwave for my popcorn and I sit
I
down.
scroll through my phone.
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
smoking my cigarette.
Yeah. But you can see that like when you're running other games, it makes you think like, oh, timeline wise, am I sending these folks off to do something that will, impact everybody and they just need to get it done fast? You start seeing opportunities in other games.
I think it's an interesting point, like that was just made. That how do mechanics impact the player? Sort of a meta thought around that is play rules like games where there's less rules, so you actually interact with those rules a
Yeah.
bunch in one
Hmm.
game. Like if I play, a game with a full thick source book, I may only play with one of those rules once
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
what, 3, 4 hour sessions.
Oh
So
boy.
figure out if you like these rules by playing, a Borg style pirate Borg, where okay, there's 4 things you can ever do. So you're gonna do one of those things many, many times, and then you'll
Yeah.
find out if you like it or hate it, and that's great.
And
That's it.
Another
That's a
one building on that too is that you may get more comfortable with just improvising and staying focused on the narrative in these more rules light systems, that it can feel a little bit out of your comfort zone at first, but this can be a very useful skill as you go into some of those crunchier games where, like, whenever it gets into the bouts of madness tables and Call of Cthulhu, or what did I hit indefinite? Did I lose this much? I don't fucking care. I never use those because if you can get more comfortable staying in that narrative moment, improvising and just saying, this is what we're doing because this works. Like, I think this is cooler. The players don't know the rules. They don't know or they might know the rules. But unless that they're going to be asking for more homework, like, everyone can accept whenever we're trying to keep this story moving and keep everything exciting. So don't let yourself get bogged down and let me look up. It's on page here. That halts the momentum at the table and can be every second of that feels like an eternity for me as a GM. Like, I'm like, fuck. And staying in the moment with rules light systems can really help you just kind of smooth things along as you're running.
Yeah.
Well, so all these systems, all these rules. So I'm going to ask a question, and you can't say aliens as an answer, but each of you, what's one system that deserves more attention than it gets, and why?
Lex was about to say aliens.
Well, we've already
We
heard
haven't
about
even-
aliens so much. Oh, you can say alien. I'm sorry. I should
No,
not
no.
have
You're all good.
cut
You're all
you
good.
off.
I know
I'm
Alex
sorry,
and Nathan
Lex.
have a bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Please.
Okay,
No.
I will. Thanks.
No, after you.
I would say the gumshoe systems, including
Yeah.
Trail of Cthulhu, because feeling confident is so awesome. Just being able to do stuff confidently without like a die roll is like, yeah, it makes you feel like you're in control, you're in charge. And then we swap over to like the action sequences where they have the general abilities, and then it's like, oh, okay, now this is a struggle.
Yeah, I'm expecting somebody to run second edition for us, please, because I
Yeah.
really want to see what they've tweaked and changed. Um, for me, I think if we're talking like a horror game, Cthork Borg is one that I bring up a fair bit. It is the Call of Cthulhu version of Morkborg, so you get those light rules, but I think the filed off serial numbers of a lot of the monsters in a positive way, like untethers you from having to worry about Cthulhu lore as much, or like, oh, is this what the Migo do? I don't care. Is this what ghouls do? I don't care. Like, go with it. It's easy mechanics, so things go pretty fast. The systems in it are fairly easy to get, which I think is another Morkborg positive. Is people kind of get the roll a d20 and you want to be under, like, that seems to make sense to them. So, or sorry, get over. But yeah, I think Thorkborg is pretty nifty.
And I think both of the Nathans have a lot to say about this weird little game called Public Weird. What was it again?
Weird Heroes of Public Access.
Yeah, that one. Because I
Well,
hear you might be having a wacky AP that is coming out of that soon.
we need to edit that up, but I would say, yeah, it's a really cool vibes-based system. Would you agree with that, Nate? I think that was
It's
where we came in.
very thematic, yes, but there's enough rules to make it. I like to play a game, so a
Yeah.
game should have some rules. Like, if I just want to play Fiasco, if I want to go play improv on stage, I'll do that. But I like a game with rules, and so yeah, it's very thematic and vibes based. But there's enough rules here and there to make it still a game.
Yeah, sweet spot. There, and I know there was some discussion about like storytelling games versus or role-playing games, and the
Yeah.
amount of rules is the difference. And
Yeah, and boy, you can get in a lot of discussion about what a game is. Has anybody tried that and actually enjoyed it? Because that's been a tough one.
I stay away from those discussions. I'm happy with my own life. I'm in my little lane.
Yeah, I think too, if you're into trying out the different things, check out the zines that are going out. Like there's a Kickstarter month of zines. There's little books galore out there, and they try to capture like different feelings or different systems that you might be able to get in a normal game. I've got three examples because I need to have three. The Details of Our Escape is a cool like civilization escaping a place through using dominoes to see like, how does this group change as it leaves its home and sets out into the world. We played a game of sock puppets where everybody is a failed puppet actor on like a Sesame Street, and this is the day where everything goes wrong. So everybody's playing your Elmos, your, Bert and Ernie's, but there's that subtext of everybody's hates each other or owes somebody money. And this whole time you're trying to keep it professional, but also you really need to let that other person know that you're not okay with that they slept with your mom. Like,
Oh my
that's
God.
not cool. Like, but you have to couch it in like kids language where it's like, I don't know that you should have stayed over there, Bert.
I've never heard of this. This is like yeah, sock puppet kids show, but like kayfabe. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's nuts.
yeah. That's a good example of it. It kind of gets that like wrestling feel to it. And then if you like solo games, there's a lot of those out there that give you vibes that you can't get playing with other people. It's best to just play by yourself sometimes, I guess. Just recently read a book called The Spine. I think it might have won some Innies recently, but it is a book about reading a book and maybe getting drawn too into the end notes and the details of it with a lot of fun prompts within. And you kind of create this messed up book by the end of it.
This zine thing, Nate. I know about Weird Heroes because I bought it on
Hmm.
Etsy. I've never
Yeah,
bought
I love
an
it.
RPG on Etsy, and I bought the zines, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I didn't know what the game was. I just like, this is too cool. I've got to buy these zines. And then I got them and I'm like, oh, this is so great. And also, like many Mork board games, it was totally inscrutable as to how to play the game through the zines.
Yeah.
So I had to buy the actual book, but that worked out. But I feel bad, Lex. Why is it that Aliens, the RPG, and V1 or V2, I don't care, but why is it that Aliens, the RPG system, should be more well known?
Mhm.
I think it is terribly sad that such a fun sci-fi horror RPG is chained to a known IP because it makes it difficult to have something like the Miskatonic Repository to create and self-publish fan-based scenarios and things. It makes it a bit of a higher threshold to tell people, no, 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 I promise this is it's kind of like the movies but different. It's better than the most recent ones for sure. Like it just trust me for a second. Like you have a little bit more of a hurdle to get over to try and convince some people to play it, unless they happen to love the alien lore and movies and things. And even so, people will enter into it kind of waiting for, all right, where's the egg? Where's the egg? And so you have a little bit more to work with that I think in the similar way that Nathan was talking about Cthorkborg as filing down the serial numbers on some stuff and just saying like, oh, is this how the ghouls work according to who gives a fuck? Like just it's this thing and roll with it. And I think that if it were just its own kind of standalone system, it would be played and talked about more. That's where I think Motherhood really shines because it's totally zine based and there's lots of uniqueness in the different scenarios and things that can come out for it. I just prefer the way that the system of the Alien TTRPG runs more than most others. In the same vein, too, that you all were talking about with these rules light systems, tending to go more on vibes. It's what I love about the Morkborg systems is that you will just get a few sentences about this ice queen who drains the color from everyone around her and just rips people's heads off as they go to plead for her hand. And like, all right, say less. And am I using that term right? I'm trying to keep up with the youths these days. But
You're doing great. Yeah,
okay,
very
awesome.
hip. You're very hip and with it.
Gee whiz. All right. And
I'm cringing.
but by being more comfortable with these vibes-based games too, in terms of rules light systems, zines are an even more extreme version of that, where instead of having like a vibes-based kind of scenario setting, this is a vibes-based system. So as long as you're kind of picking up where they're putting down, where it's like, all right, you're sock puppeteer, or like you're puppeteers who are trying to air out your dirty laundry while still being on the set of this show and keeping it in character like that. If you're down with that premise, the zine is gonna try to make that work, and it can be a super fun time. You don't need to remember and like try to extrapolate those rules out, but it's designed to be a simple novel experience that if you're picking up what it's putting down, you're gonna have a great time. The Grant Howitt games in particular excel at this too.
Yeah, I like that it's kind of to that, like, you don't necessarily even have to play them a ton too. Because I think a lot of these games go with like the Pathfinder. Oh, you're gonna start this and you're gonna play for years, and that is such a tough sell
It's a
because we're
high bar for
adults.
commitment. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the zines are great because you're like, this is what this zine does. You're gonna do it once or twice, and you're gonna say, awesome, I have done the thing, and probably not play it again. And that's fine. Like, you're not spending $200 on this massive series of books.
Level 1 to 20 adventure
Yeah.
commitment. Ugh.
Who can do that anymore? I'd like you all to know that according to River Claire, Say Less is so 2 years ago.
Ah, damn it. I'm
Oof.
trying.
But
What do I say? What do I say? More now? I don't know what to
say
do.
more maybe. But Colin, our good friend Colin, would like us to know that no cap. I have no idea what the hell that is supposed
my
to mean,
God.
but
No
he has
cap is like for real. That's the millennial translation
cap.
into that there. So saying something is no cap is like no lie. So then it's the
Okay.
equivalent of us saying like, yeah, for real.
Oh, for real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad.
Language
So
is
I'm
fun. It's
glad to know
tubular.
that. What mechanics would you steal?
Uh,
So we've played so
what
many games.
mechanics?
What mechanics would you steal from another game and put
Yeah.
into every other game that you run?
Maybe not every other game that I run, but for my
Almost every
heroic
other
games.
game.
Almost every other game for my D20 like heroic games that have the re-roll meta currency, right? You get a re-roll, let's say you roll bad at an opportune moment and you get a 2 and you're like, "Oh, well that sucks. I'm going to use a re-roll on that." And you re-roll it again and it's 3. It's like, "Wow, that fucking blows." So I was first introduced to this mechanic from Mutants and Masterminds 3rd edition. They have victory points, which is the meta currency there. And if you re-roll with a victory point on a result from 1 to 10, you just add 10. So mechanically, you can only get an 11 to 20. And that really just doesn't suck. So even if I get a 5, right, that's actually a 15 plus my modifiers. And I succeed on doing the badass hero thing because I'm using a hero point. And it's a feel good thing that I use because when that happens, when you don't have that kind of protection, it's like, okay, well, that kind of blew.
Alex has been doing that in our Kingmaker campaign, and yeah, it's awesome. Because as he's saying, if I'm going to use a precious resource to try and re-roll and I roll a 4 on a d20, it's like, well, fuck. That's a 14 now. Like, you are increasing your likelihood of success substantially because you're using a precious thing.
Yeah, same reason we don't necessarily hide the luck spins, right? Like, you've often had people be like, "Do I need to spin this down to a hard?" I'm not gonna lie to you, like, like
Yeah.
Yeah,
just tell, because yeah, that stuff is worth too much, and you want it to feel impactful.
impactful.
Yeah,
Right, right.
What other mechanics would you steal?
I like the Heart Inspire. If you've seen those, you know you're all dark elves in a weird fantasy world. One of the cool things they do is that When you get to the highest level of your character power, the ability you unlock is that you're gonna die, but you're gonna go out in a super cool way, like a way
Nice.
that will change the world drastically. But you're gonna die. Like that's a given. Whether you die or you move on and you're not playable, you ascend to another plane of reality, whatever. But it gets that cool, like, you get an end to the character and you don't have this like constant like, well, then what's next? What's
Mm.
next? What's next? It's like, oh, I did it. Great. Let's start somebody else.
Hmm.
And
That the,
also, when people die, something cool should happen because otherwise it's just kind of like a, oh, they died.
yeah.
I would continue and say that I do really enjoy games that introduce that meta currency that we were talking about, but allowing spending that to edit the scene for the players.
Mm.
And I tend to put that in like my other games. Like, hey, if you want, you can spend this to have a connection because I love the player input because it's collaborative.
When you say edit the scene for the other players, what does that mean?
So what does that mean? Well, it means if I am making a daring prison break escape and there's a platoon of guards hiding behind wooden crates in this old-timey like cowboy setting, I'm gonna say, all right, well, there is a crate of dynamite right next to that barricade right there. I'm like, and then the GM's gonna say, hell yeah, let's do it. And
I am going to like I don't know about porting this into every system, but there are a couple of things that I can really note for my favorite ways to run Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green. The first one is I love Call of Cthulhu for the luck spends because you're spending that precious resource to try and go down. I think that the luck system works great and it's really cinematic because you have less of this as it goes on. So these rolls are going to feel more and more tense as time goes on. It's the beauty of these finite meta currencies, right? However, a lot of the time rolls don't need to happen, and there is always a chance that like it's just a mundane situation. You're going to roll a spot hidden, fuck, you don't get it, right? The passive skill check values from Delta Green, mwah, chef's kiss. It simplifies things so much so you stay in that narrative element whenever it is not a thrilling, intense, or otherwise stressful and uncertain situation. So like that's one. If there is a system that gives skill values, I have tended to kind of take that same thread from Delta Green and just say, like in the case of Alien, right? You have a 6 in engineering. I'm not even going to ask you to roll. Like you can't fuck this up, and
No.
continue on from there. But more in terms of meta currency for Delta Green, while certain things from DG roll over to COC, the same is not always true because I tried running Delta Green using Call of Cthulhu style luck, and due to the way that crits work in that system where it's double digits, the luck system completely breaks DG. Instead, something that I found that has been really fun in my current run of Impossible Landscapes is I stole omens from the Morkborg, Cthorkborg, etc. Borg systems, and I call them favors. King's favors, some may call them. And the players can get them and be able to accomplish similar ends. So you're still getting a precious resource that you can alter the values of skill rolls by like plus or minus 20 if they call it before a roll, or 10 if they call it after the roll to try and do an immediate bailout or something. But they can't give themselves a crit using it, right? You can reduce some damage in that way to be more survivable whenever push may come to shove. And also, you can redeem them for extra clues or extra things in the world going on. Because it's a way for players to, whenever they want things to go their way a little bit, you can cash that in. And they also know, through the classic dilemma of people like me hoarding every single mega potion and ether throughout a game, you can get to the end and like have all of them, but then it's like, oh, are you going to use them or not? Because whenever you don't have any, things get very tense.
yeah, and I'd like to add that none of this is really possible if Lex hadn't played these different systems to be
Yeah.
able to understand and to just move those mechanics around. One thing that I learned was like in one of these games, meta currency is awarded from like player behavior or just making everyone laugh. And I ported that over to Pulp Call of Cthulhu, where, hey, if you do a witty one-liner, I'm just going to give you 5 luck. And that's just a really great way to encourage player behavior and to reward the kind of vibe and tone you want to set for the table for that certain game.
Fully agree. Yeah. One other one, and this will be the last time I mention the Alien RPG, but this is another little tidbit that can apply to DG and COC, which we tend to run a lot on our server and places like Good Friends and everything. It can feel challenging sometimes whenever the players are going up against some kind of big bad that has 3 actions in a single turn. Because whenever that turn rolls around, boy howdy, you better get ready because it's about to get nasty. Is it just wham, wham, wham? And there's nothing you can really do about it in that moment. And so their turns feel extremely weighted against them. Something that I loved in the Alien RPG. It typically uses like a card initiative system, but I just, essentially have people go in dex order because this is another thing too. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Instead of giving the single terrifying creature 1 turn with multiple actions, roll a d10 for each action that they have to intersperse them with multiple turns at random points throughout the combat round. Meaning that whenever your players encounter them, they don't know when the thing is going to act next. And it can make these combats even more uncertain, and they're trying to figure out what they can do because the first round is always the most tense and exciting, right? It's like after that, things become a little more predictable. But instead of just overloading one round, do a little rolling ahead of time. And especially if you know the player's dex orders, so you can transition them right into initiative, do a little pre-rolling and then have that ghoul or something like have 2 random turns. Players aren't going to expect that. And they're going to start scrambling because this thing can literally outrun them or outmaneuver them as they're trying to go around it.
Nice.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it also makes the combat more dynamic.
Right.
Now you have a villain or a thing that you can interject throughout the combat versus that one. That's great. So we have valuable depleting resources that you can use to change your fate. Like that was one big theme, and I love that theme. We've got this in the chat. We're talking about blades, and Nathan's in there too. And
Can't.
that is, and Alex, I think you mentioned this. That's the flashback mechanic. Where, and
Yeah.
the bit about this that really hits me is someone just said, it gets rid of all of this unnecessary, needless, and I'm going to say boring, but maybe all you cyberpunk players, okay, you got it. But me, I'm going to say boring planning sessions. And they're boring because they don't actually happen. We've all been in the big epic RPG planning session, 30 minutes in the cafe or the diner or the safe house or whatever, the tavern. And then immediately nothing like that happens. And Blades has a mechanic that messes that up. Nathan, what is that?
Only 30 minutes in a planning session? Man,
Or
y'all are on
45
fire.
or 60. I was trying to make myself seem more smart than I actually
Yeah, let's
am.
get to the action, right?
It's an hour.
Right. And that's the heart of the Blades is exactly what Alex said. It's get to the action. Instead of planning, you tell me what you do. Like, how are you breaking in? Like, what's your approach? Starting the scene, and then you're in it. And then what you do instead is you say, aha, I prepared for this. Like, oh, there's 2 guards out in front. Well, did you plan for this? Sure. Yes, I'll have a flashback. I'll roll some die. I'll spend a little stress, which is kind of that meta currency, the character currency, to have met this guy in a bar and slipped him $20 and said, hey, let me in the back door. And then you roll and you see, did he take it up? Did he take that $20 and just say, nah, I'm still turning you in? You still got all that fun, but your characters are actually ready for it and have these cool like Ocean's 11 scenes where you go back. And same for your equipment too. I love a dungeon crawl thing where you're like, okay, I'm packing a wrench, I'm packing my rope, I'm doing all that stuff. It's not the same feel as like a Blades where you should be able to say, well, yes, I packed my sonic screwdriver because I knew I'd need it. Of course you didn't. There's no way you could have known, but having it makes you feel like a really cool thief.
Like Batman.
Yeah. Got my shark repellent. I knew there would be
Absolutely.
sharks here.
What would that look like outside of a heist game?
I oh boy, there are definitely games like that. I think for like a dungeon crawl game, it's very similar in the did you prepare for this? Yes, I brought a torch. That's like always the easy example of did I bring the thing I need? Roll. What is it, Alex? In trail preparedness, you
Oh
literally
yeah, that's
have
a
a
really
stat.
great
Mhm.
stat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have a stat that says, "Did you think ahead?" Roll. Nope.
Yep.
All
Is
right,
my
you didn't
character
think
smarter
ahead.
than me? All right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's handy for the investigative, just like those omens and that sort of thing, because it keeps things moving and gives the players this feel still that they're, coming up with ideas or trying things. It's not
Yeah,
just the GM saying, "Oh, you did it. You would have brought that."
I feel like you could definitely port something like this over for systems like Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green, these more investigative horror scenarios where a lot of the time as GMs we will tend to hand wave it where it's like, did I bring a flashlight? Oh, roll luck. Or yeah, sure, fuck it, you have it, because I don't care. Like I don't want to get
Yeah.
bogged down in that. So being able to implement that as more of a dynamic flashback could be a way to keep that narrative contributing, especially if you have to narrate what did it cost you to bring this? Like
Yeah.
what did you sacrifice like in your pack in order to fit this flashlight in? Or something else potentially in the same way that we were talking about with public access, where it is, what led you to open this bleeding chest. You could potentially narrate if the PCs would find some clue to kind of skip ahead a little bit and then have them narrate what led them there or where they found it. As a way, if you have floating clues or something like that, you can add a layer of abstraction, especially if your PCs are feeling a little lost or something like that. If they're stalling out, maybe something. I'm just brainstorming here, but an idea.
It's good for a con game too, because it gets you like, I gotta get these guys like they've
We got
spent
to get this
all
moving. We
day
got
in
a
this
timetable.
apartment. Yeah, they spent so long. You found the clue. Let's go. Let's go.
Mm.
Let's go.
That might give us a reason to use the accounting skill in Call of Cthulhu for
Mm.
the first time too. Maybe that becomes did you on a spreadsheet write down all the equipment you might need, roll accounting, see if you have that winch to
Yeah, I think
open
that
that door.
actually is a pretty good. Delta Green kind of does that with acquisitions. I
Yes.
think that's a good way to handle that. Is can you move the number? I said it kind of does, Lex. It kind of
In
does.
theory.
In
In
theory. In
theory.
theory.
This is
But
another case of whenever you read rules on paper and then try them out in execution. I'll just leave it
yeah,
that way.
yeah, that's important.
All right, so you all are very experienced players and game runners. What's a lesson or skill you've learned from an RPG that improved your game running or playing in other RPGs?
Yeah, I'd love to hop in on this one because first and foremost, I'd love to say that I am a combination of every single game master that has run a game for me. I am a combination of every single tabletop RPG that I've tried out. And here's this list, right, of all these transferable skills, all this experience. Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Savage Worlds. They helped me with narrating the action-packed combat, making it crunchy, making it impactful. Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green Cult, they all helped me with mood and atmosphere. Dungeon Crawl Classics,
Mhm.
Morkborg, and other OSR games, they really help me embrace and appreciate randomness through
Yeah.
tables and what we can generate and it's improv. And then the Cypher system, their character creation, it helped me with character concepts and how to really frame it. I am an adjective, noun, that verbs. So that kind of transferred over, and it's like when I'm thinking of making NPCs, I'm thinking of that. So yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a lot of experience standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, picking what you like and then putting the rest away. I like that. Yeah, I think this is like the real life, like what are the real life things of it? One of the things that I think I learned is keeping your eye on the prize. Um, this goes back to the 30-minute planning sessions, right? Is we've all had those. We spend all this time, we plan for the stuff. And of course, it doesn't happen that way. It's not going to go that way. Or you spent this time focusing on how do we open the chest. And then the DM goes, okay, well, you opened it right next to a dragon. And you go, I probably should have been paying attention to that instead of that. So I think that's an important, like, get your goal down and then start working towards it. Because otherwise, yeah, you end up in these crazy, crazy discussions that are not leading anywhere.
I think in a slight deviation from the question, what I'm seeing through all of this is the more systems that you try, you will get a better sense of not only like what this system does versus this system and this, that, and the other, but you will start to develop more of a sense of TTRPGs and collaborative storytelling in general, and seeing these systems as different vehicles to tell different kinds of stories and share different kinds of experiences with other players. And in doing that and thinking a little bit at this higher level of abstraction, there are some things that I have learned that have been really helpful for me in any game that I play going forward. One that I really love is a conception of the essential essence of a scenario or game. This is like what Nathan was talking about with keeping your eye on the prize. Whenever you read a given scenario or you're considering a system, think about what excites you about it. Because if you're excited about something, then that is going to translate to your delivery at the table, right? And also think about what experiences do you want the players to feel? What kind of tensions or threat do you want to spin up for this? Is this going to be a desperate fight for survival? Is this going to be a creeping dread and unsettlement, right? And so by writing those things down, keeping them in mind, we refer to them kind of as the beating hearts in our dissections. You can deliver very potent games because you're not going to let yourself get derailed, and you can sort of stay on the ball to deliver that essential essence, that experience that you want your players to have, right? So that's one, just in terms of keeping a narrative thread and cohesion. Another is thinking about these games from a player's experience. So I always recommend, like, if you're a forever GM, hop on our server and play some random games. Play some games this weekend if you haven't already. Like, what are we doing here? But be a player and a GM in equal measure if you possibly can, because you can see what different styles feel like on one side of the table versus the other, but also think about what the other players are doing and feeling. That's where we say GMs make the best players, because we want other players to feel involved and included. We will share the spotlight because we don't just want to hog spotlight all one for the other. But another two is think about things like in combats. What is this communicating for your players? I'll call again to D&D 5e. Whenever you roll for initiative, and then there is just a set order of things, right? You are implicitly communicating to players that you don't need to contribute anything until it's your turn on deck. We have to repeatedly emphasize to players, please plan out your turns in the interim. Go into yourself and think about your individual actions in isolation, and then whenever it's your turn to talk, right? But they are not a part of that narrative. It's not dynamic in the moment, right? Well, what Nate was talking about with the suggestion for giving antagonist with multiple actions, give them multiple turns, because you are necessitating players to stay aware of the entire combat, because it might be their ass any minute now. They don't just need to wait it out until it's the xenomorph's turn when they're just going to raffle stomp on some poor PC, right? They always need to be aware of the things that are going on. I try to focus on this by staying involved in the narrative and never letting the rules getting in the way of a good story. And so by constantly saying, like, calling on a random PC, be like, this is what you're seeing, this is what you're feeling, forecasting things that might be happening next is a way to keep everyone present in the moment and contributing in that there. Like what Alex is talking about with meta currencies, reward positive behavior, reward good role play, fun jokes, sharing the spotlight, because it facilitates a better atmosphere around the table and really emphasizes that we're all here to have a good time, and this is what we're trying to facilitate. I'm already talking a lot, so I'm gonna back away a little bit, but yeah, that's
No, it's
beautiful.
it's perfect. That's like the bit of cheese, right? Like this is the behavior you want to see. You give the mouse a bit of cheese. And I think too, one other lesson I learned from an RPG is, yeah, try a lot of systems because you're gonna play with players you don't like. Like that's just how it is. I've played with Alex before. Like it's gonna
Eh,
What are you gonna do?
yeah, what are you gonna do? No, I think there's something important to getting that feel of like, oh, I didn't like this. Well, why didn't I like it? Right?
Hmm.
Like I've had games where I go, I didn't like this system. Why did I not like it? Maybe it was because I didn't feel like I had the control I wanted to or I thought I would have in the system. Maybe it's just, boy, I hated rolling those funky die. I didn't, Alex. DCC's funky die are stupid fun.
so
But
cool.
yeah, but I could see people coming in and being like, why didn't I like that? I don't want to have a D13 or whatever the hell. Like, it's just, who does it? So you kind of refine your taste the more. And yeah, sometimes you're going to eat something you don't like, but that's fine. Then you just don't eat it again.
It's often a lot easier to figure out the things that you don't like rather than trying to figure out what you do like in isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In defense of those funky die, Nathan, I do think it is an interesting mechanic to build
Oh,
into a
yeah.
game to
Sure.
increase or decrease the dice level.
Yep.
And I think you need more stupid dice shapes to make that more interesting in the mechanic. But
This
I
is the
do like that.
behavior of a dice gremlin is what this is. That's sick mind.
The system's
You-
just for you. It was made for me.
It was made for Alex. What are we at? We are at 5. We got about 8 minutes left. I'm going to end this with a round robin question to each of you. Share your parting wisdom with everyone around this large topic, large subject of experimenting, playing, trying out all these different systems makes you a better game runner, makes you a better player, is just good for your life. So, what is your one parting thought, wisdom, comment, suggestion? We will start with Alex.
Drink more water. No, in all seriousness, I challenge you, the listener, to play something just radically different than what you are used to at least once. And as a GM or even as a player, you can cherry pick and hack apart the stuff you do like and what you don't like. And you find out just what works. And that just becomes you going forward.
Very nice. Nathan.
I think we've talked a fair bit about like we joked about Kickstarters and this. I think my concluding thought is don't go crazy and spend a bunch of money on everything. This is do as I say, not as I do. Um, but when we talk about these systems, like join a game that you don't have the rules for and talk to the GM like and say, hey, I don't have the book for this. Do I need it? They say yes. You go, okay, then I can't. And that's fine. Or find a play what you want type game. Like there's so many very affordable ways to try different systems. So don't spend the bank on it right away. Just try different things.
I love that. And bring us home, Lex.
Building off of what Alex and Nathan have recommended, I can also say, from someone who may be feeling like a forever GM, I see that term tossed around the internet a lot, where people may feel like everyone just wants to play in the games. I'm stuck running it. I often hear this in terms of
Yeah.
DMing for systems like D&D 5e. Here's the thing, though. If you are going to be convinced by this hour and a half of our ranting about various things, if you can open yourself up to trying random systems that may be way out of your comfort zone, you don't even know what they're about, like it sounds possibly appealing, It's a system that you don't have the rule book for, but they would be able to give you like a quick start or some kind of a reference sheet or something, and just trust yourself to be guided by the GM in this. There are so many people who are wanting to run these weird fucking systems, like Weird Heroes of Public Access, where you're playing these bizarre local TV hosts that get into various hijinks and shenanigans. And there are always people who are looking to run random weird stuff. And if you're feeling that struggle of a forever GM, like, try something else, because you're probably going to have fun. You're going to experience new systems, learn new things, meet new people, and also be able to cultivate your own GMing styles. You know, that's something we've talked about throughout this whole panel. Because if you sit down for that session of Weird Heroes and you hate it, right? You miss the crunch, you like, you're not there for all the wackiness. Great. You now know that going forward. You know yourself that much better. And what did it cost? A few hours of your time, but everyone is just trying to have a good time there. So it's not, as long as you're not being just a Sour Patch Kid, you know, could have been worse, right? Yeah. So that may be a way to help you feel more holistically prepared as a GM, give you some experiences as a player, and who knows, maybe meet some new people and try some new systems that you'll be interested in working with in the future. Not Nathan, though.
I don't want to meet new people. I've hit my quota.
I've hit my quota of people.
Oh, outstanding. I feel like I sat down to a
therapy
table. No.
Yeah, how does it make you feel, Nate?
Oh, don't even ask. Don't you start. I'm going to go play 4 hours of games instead of go to that.
Yeah.
Like, I sat down to the table and had a full meal, and you all helped me very much feel well fed on your wisdom and your knowledge around this topic. Thank you so much, RPG Reanimators. And if we can start with outros, let's do it the same way we just did it. Alex.
Yeah, you can check us out at RPG Reanimators, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check out our YouTube channel, which actually has our APs. And please feel free to join our Discord. We're always offering games with like-minded individuals here, trying new things out, hacking things apart, building them up. We also do like really obscure stuff that I don't think is mentioned a lot, which is like our book club. We have writing workshops every week, or at least we try. And
we do our best.
Yeah, life gets busy, but check it all out. We're very welcoming.
Oh, that's right. I have to keep going.
No, it's Lex's turn. It's not my turn.
No, I go third. Nate said same order.
Same order. I'm
same order.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Lex, you're second then.
Lex is second.
Adapt and improvise. Okay, Lex.
So see, this is an example of why we edit our podcast.
Because it all falls apart if the order changes.
I'll go, Lex. I'll give you a second here. Yeah, check out our APs. I'll second that. We've got some really fun new systems coming up. I think that some of the stuff that we've had GMs come in and do is some of the most fun I've had in ages, and I think is a good example of using a session like Alex, your Drowned Dreams run was a really good example of using Call of Cthulhu to play. So check those out. And hey, if you're really looking for something to do, Controlled Burn, my Call of Cthulhu scenario dropped a while back. I've had the luck of running some people on some APs that'll drop soon, but you can also buy the scenario.
It's great.
It's all right. But buy it anyways.
Yeah, building off all of that, I really enjoy our server for trying to cultivate a sense of community of a bunch of fun weirdos who really enjoy horror and or tabletop role-playing games. As Alex said, we try to do a lot to, just stay involved with folks there. I'm involved with our monthly book club. Then we'll do the writing workshops and things. We've recently been trying to put a little more inertia behind making these writing sessions a little more regular, really trying to encourage people to submit user-created scenarios and things like that, where Alex is going to have Drowned Dreams coming out soon. Nathan's got Controlled Burn. I published Deep Trouble a while ago for a convention-friendly, potentially first-time GM-friendly scenario that is going to be taking place in a submarine, even though the cover isn't accurate, but don't get me started on that because I literally do not care.
I'm glad somebody brought it up.
There we go. Yeah, I gotta get ahead of it in there. So yeah, we have all of that is free and open. We really encourage just trying to share these resources as far and wide as we can. Whatever we publish, episodes that are doing dissections and reanimations of scenarios, we publish any handouts or resources we can provide for free on our Google Drive that folks can download and use and alter for themselves if they wish. We also have a Patreon where folks can get early access to episodes, although I will apologize. Life has been really crazy for a bit, so there's not that many new episodes available. There's a couple of new episodes, but I'm working on getting through our backlog, and we'll be able to start getting people some more juicy tidbits to look forward to in there as we release regular episodes bi-weekly most of the time, except I'm still behind on editing again. But, Nathan keeps me covered with tons of APs released on YouTube.
Yeah. You can always see some other good AP. I've had a lot of joyous times with Nate and the others of getting to play games. So hopefully people can share in that, and it softens the blow of not having the more edited podcast.
And if you can't always find another good AP, you can always find another AP. Yeah. Technically another AP.
Hey, it's free. I don't want to hear any complaints.
No, that's just it. Like, we put this out for free. I don't want to hear complaints here. You don't have to listen to it. We just would like if you did and said nice things, because we're all very sensitive.
Oh, thank you all. This has been a great panel. I hope our viewers enjoyed it. Hope they learned a lot. And thank you for joining us with System Variety is the spice of life.
Spice of life. Oh, no.
Highlighting
pull the
favorite
plug.
RPGs with the RPG Reanimators.